Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere colder than anything your imagination has ever managed to dream, back to an age when the moonlight itself froze on the ground, and breathing felt like swallowing glass. Before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, tell me where you're watching from, and what the temperature is right now where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake into a night that doesn't end. The horizon is gone, smothered by a grey-white sky that never moves, as if the world itself has forgotten how to turn. The air has weight, pressing down against your chest like a hand made of frost. It's somewhere around -40 degrees Fahrenheit, but numbers don't mean much anymore. It's the kind of cold that eats through ideas first, then flesh, the kind that teaches you the difference between pain and silence. The wind moves like an animal across the plains, flattening everything it touches. Somewhere out there are mammoths, giant shadows in the storm, breathing steam as they move between blackened patches of earth. You can smell them: hair, musk, heat, a living reminder that warmth still exists somewhere in the world. Around you, the Eurasian steppe stretches endless and cruel, and you stand inside its ribs, one heartbeat away from becoming part of it. You pull your furs tighter and think about the strange arrogance of being human here, this small, soft creature daring to call the Ice Age home. There are no houses, no chimneys, no fires waiting behind stone walls, just wind, ice, bone, and the stubborn refusal to vanish. It's been weeks since you've seen real sunlight. The world's color palette has been reduced to white, gray, and the faint copper of old blood on the snow. The tribe moves slowly through the cold, wrapped in layers of stitched hides so thick they change the shape of everyone who wears them. You look more animal than human now. Breath freezes in your eyelashes. Speech becomes impossible without pain, so communication has become simpler. Glances, grunts, gestures. A flick of the hand toward the horizon means we keep moving. A touch to the chest means I still breathe. When you finally stop for the night, there is no real choice of where. The steppe decides for you. A patch of snow that hides a curve of earth soft enough to dig. The oldest among you kneels first, pressing his palm to the ground like a priest greeting an altar. You follow, clawing through the crusted snow, until you find dirt dark enough to smell. Beneath the frozen surface lies the secret. The Ice Age never meant you to learn. The earth remembers heat. You dig deeper, the soil giving way to dampness, to air that feels almost merciful. The hollow begins to take shape, circular, shoulder deep, wide enough for 10 bodies. Each handful of earth makes you sweat despite the temperature. It's absurd, sweating in a world where nothing melts. But that's the strange miracle of survival. Even when everything around you freezes, the body still believes in fire. When the pit is ready, the group lines the bottom with reeds and moss hauled from a nearby riverbank, frozen stiff, then thawed by fire. The smell rises sharp and earthy. Over that go hides, fur side up, a patchwork quilt of mammoth, reindeer, and wolf. The walls get lined too, sealed with mud and snow to block the wind. Someone mutters that the dead will envy you tonight. You laugh because humor is warmth's little cousin. By the time the shelter is ready, darkness has fully swallowed the horizon. You crawl down into it, knees first, head bowed, feeling the air change as you descend. It's quieter down here. The wind becomes a memory instead of a threat. In the center, a shallow fire pit waits, a ring of stone, already blackened by a dozen nights before this one. A few handfuls of dry grass, a sliver of dung, a spark struck from flint, and the tiny heart of fire begins to beat. The flame isn't bright. It doesn't roar or dance. It flickers low and patient, as if conserving its own courage. The smoke snakes upward through a narrow vent cut through the ceiling. You watch it twist away into the night, a ghost rising from your small hidden world. Around the fire, bodies settle. You feel shoulders pressing against you. Hear the soft hiss of breath through chapped lips. Every exhale warms the air by a fraction of a degree, and that fraction is the difference between life and death. Your hands are raw. Your face is burning from the cold, and yet something inside you feels oddly calm. The world outside has become pure silence, but in here there's a rhythm, fire crackle, quiet breathing, the shift of hide against hide. You press closer to the warmth until you can smell the singe of fur, and you let it happen. A small price to pay for feeling your fingers again. Someone begins humming. A sound older than language, low and steady. It's not a song so much as a vibration, a reminder that you exist. The children curl closer. The elders close their eyes. You follow them into the half-dream of exhaustion, where warmth becomes memory, and memory becomes the thing that keeps you alive. Outside, the wind claws at the earth, testing the edges of your little cave. It finds no weakness tonight. The earth has you now wrapped in its slow pulse, sheltering the stubborn noise of life from a world that no longer cares. You drift. You breathe. You sleep in a grave that feels like a cradle. And tomorrow, if the storm lets you wake again, you'll do it all over, because that's what humans do. When morning finally arrives, if you can even call it morning, it's not with sunlight, but with the faintest shift in darkness, the kind that makes you wonder if your eyes are playing tricks on you. Someone beside you stirs, a muffled cough in the half-light. The fire is a pit of orange embers now, sighing faintly beneath a layer of ash. You can taste the smoke before you smell it, metallic and ancient. The world outside the shelter waits, uninvited and patient. You rise slowly, feeling the ache of joints stiffened by sleep and cold. The air bites the instant you move away from the others. The breath of your companions still clings to you, thin ribbons of warmth evaporating as you stand. Every step toward the entrance feels like walking backward into extinction. You duck beneath the low arch of hides and bone, push aside the flap, and the cold hits you like a weapon. The horizon is flat and endless. The wind has carved new shapes in the night. Dunes of snow ripple outward like frozen waves. The sound it makes is strange, something between a whisper and a scream. You pull your cloak tighter, the fur crusted with ice, and step out into the open, blinking through tears that freeze before they can fall. You look back at your shelter. From the outside, it's nearly invisible, just a rise in the earth, a few mammoth bones jutting out like ribs of some long-dead creature. If not for the thin line of smoke escaping from the vent, no one would know it was alive down there. That's the secret to survive. You must disappear. You move toward the edge of the camp, where the snow has been cleared to reveal the supplies. A small pile of bones sits beside a bundle of frozen grass and dung, the fuel that feeds the fire. There is no wood here, no forest for hundreds of miles. The cold doesn't allow generosity. Everything that burns has to be earned. The elder, his beard white as the frost itself, joins you. He grunts in approval at the smoke rising from the shelter, then stoops to check the vent. The snow around it has hardened into a crust, almost sealing the opening. You help him chip it away carefully with a piece of stone. If the vent closes, the smoke would suffocate everyone inside by morning. Every day the cold gives you small chores to prove you deserve to live. When the vent is cleared, he gestures toward the horizon. Far off, a herd of something dark moves against the white, woolly mammoths maybe, or bison. You can feel the thought forming behind his eyes. Meat, bone, sinew, warmth. Everything that lives out here is made of the same ingredients, rearranged temporarily by luck. He presses a mammoth tusk into your hand. A simple gesture, but it means you'll join the hunt today. You nod, though your stomach twists at the thought. Hunting in this world is not triumph. It's a conversation with death where both sides understand the terms. The group prepares in silence. Spears of bone and flint are checked, sinew bindings tightened. You wrap another layer of hide around your legs, more to keep the wind from finding you than for comfort. The fire inside the shelter is banked low, a single ember covered in ash to keep it alive while you're gone. It feels strange to leave it behind, as if part of your own heartbeat stays buried with it. The walk is long and cruel. The steppe stretches in all directions, a frozen ocean of white dunes. Your breath comes in shallow bursts. Every few minutes you stamp your feet to remind them they still exist. The cold is so absolute it begins to lose meaning. Your skin has gone beyond pain into something like numb disbelief. You keep moving, not because it helps, but because stopping would feel too much like surrender. Hours later, you find them, a herd of mammoths moving slowly across the plain, their breath rising in thick clouds. They look like mountains in motion. One calf lags behind. Smaller, slower, the group circles quietly, each hunter taking their place as if part of a wordless ritual. You wait for the wind to shift. You can feel your heartbeat hammering against the cold, like a drum beneath layers of fur. The throw is a whisper and a prayer. Flint bites hide, hide resists. Then blood steams into the air like a brief promise of warmth. The herd scatters, thunder shaking the snow from the sky. When it's over, you stand trembling, your hands shaking, not from pity but from exhaustion. The calf lies still. Steam rises from its wound, a ghost of life drifting upward. You whisper thanks because it feels wrong not to. By the time you return to camp, the light, or whatever passes for light, is fading again. The others cheer softly as you approach, relief heavy in their voices. The fire pit glows brighter now, fed by new fuel. Inside the shelter, the smell of roasting meat begins to fill the air, rich and primal. The fat pops in the flames like tiny bursts of laughter. You sit close to the fire, thawing fingers that no longer feel like yours. The taste of the meat is unbelievable. Earthy, sweet, alive. For the first time in days you feel full, and for a brief moment, safe. The elder mutters a short chant, something you've heard since childhood. It has no words anymore, just rhythm. The children mimic him, their voices trembling between sleep and song. When you finally lie down again, the ground beneath you feels softer. The heat from the fire seeps into the hides, into your bones. The storm outside howls, but the sound no longer frightens you. It's just the world moving on. You close your eyes and feel your heartbeat slow, matching the rhythm of the earth below. In this pit of dirt and bone, surrounded by the scent of smoke and survival, you understand what warmth really means. It's not fire or fur or clever engineering. It's the sound of breathing bodies beside you, refusing to die. You drift to sleep with the quiet certainty that tomorrow will come, and even if it doesn't, this moment was enough. You wake before the others, stirred not by sound but by silence. The wind has stopped for the first time in weeks, and its absence feels like a trap. The air inside the shelter hangs heavy and stale, the faint scent of smoke and animal fat coating your tongue. You shift slightly and the hides whisper against your skin, stiff with frost where your breath touched them through the night. In the dim orange light of embers, you can see shapes, people, not so much sleeping as suspended between exhaustion and vigilance. Even in dreams, no one lets go completely. You crawl toward the pit's center, careful not to step on an arm or foot buried beneath the blankets of fur. The fire looks dead, but when you poke it with a stick, a small red heart glows beneath the ash. You feed it a strip of dried grass, then a piece of dung, watching the smoke rise in slow curls toward the vent above. The tiny flame brightens, spreading warmth unevenly across the space. Someone sighs in their sleep, and you smile faintly. Fire, that fickle god, has decided to live another day. The elder stirs next, mumbling as he sits up. His joints crack like thawing branches. He gestures for you to open the vent flap a little wider, and when you do, a single thread of pale light seeps into the shelter. The sky outside is still grey, but softer, less hostile. For a moment you dare to imagine that spring might exist somewhere, even if only as a rumour carried by migrating birds. Breakfast is a strange word for what happens next. Less a meal and more a ritual of proving you're still here. The group shares thin slices of roasted meat, the last from yesterday's hunt, gnawed carefully so every fiber counts. Fat is gold out here. The youngest child, eyes half closed with sleep, sucks on a piece of sinew as if it were candy. You watch them, remembering how every winter there are fewer faces. It's an arithmetic you've learned not to calculate out loud. When the meal ends, everyone moves into their morning rhythm, a quiet dance of maintenance. The older men patch cracks in the walls with a mixture of mud and snow that freezes instantly into armor. Women rewrap hides, shake out the dampness, and check the sleeping places for drafts. The children fetch chunks of frozen earth to weigh down the edges. You can tell, just by the way everyone moves, that this shelter has become something more than protection. It's a living creature, breathing through its vents and seams. Every day it must be fed, mended and appeased. You step outside with the elder to inspect the snow. It's firm underfoot, layered with delicate ridges carved by the last storm. The cold has a different texture this morning, dry, almost brittle. He kneels, scoops up a handful, and presses it to his lips, testing the air the way farmers might taste the soil. Good, his gesture says. It will hold. That means travel, or at least scouting. The tribe's survival depends on movement. The animals move, so you must too. Still, the elder hesitates, his eyes scanning the horizon. He doesn't need to speak. You both know the rule. Never leave the shelter without a plan. Never walk farther than you can crawl back by nightfall. The cold is clever. It waits for pride, for overconfidence. It kills the bold first. You help him gather supplies for the short journey. A spear, a few strips of dried meat, a small pouch of fat-soaked grass wrapped in hide, the emergency fire starter. Every item has a memory attached. Nothing here is disposable, not even mistakes. The elder touches the tusk at your neck, a charm carved from the last hunt, and nods for you to lead. The world outside feels hollow. The silence is so wide it hums in your ears. You can hear your own pulse echoing inside your skull. As you walk, you notice strange shapes along the horizon, long mounds, half buried in snow. At first you think they're hills, but then the wind shifts and you see the curve of bone, enormous and pale, like monuments to some forgotten war. Mammoth bone houses, abandoned, old, but still standing against time. You approach one, brushing away snow to reveal the massive skull forming the doorway. Inside, the air is dry and still, the ground littered with ancient ash. You imagine the people who once slept here, perhaps ancestors of your tribe or strangers entirely. The walls are lined with layers of hide and grass, brittle now but still recognizable. You run your fingers over the seams and it feels like touching the skin of history itself. The elder enters behind you, stooping low. He kneels near the hearth, scoops a bit of the old ash between his fingers, and lets it fall. You both watch it vanish into the cold air. He smiles, a rare thing, and mutters something that sounds like respect. In this world, ruins are not ghosts, they're teachers. You take a moment to breathe deeply. The air smells faintly of dust and animal oil, but beneath it something else, warmth, not literal heat, but the memory of it. You realize the people who built this shelter learned the same lessons you have, how to make comfort out of death, how to sculpt safety from bone. The wind sighs through the cracks in the wall, and for a second it almost sounds like voices. When you return to your own camp, the others are already waiting. Smoke curls from the vent again. Stronger now. Someone has found more fuel, maybe scraps of mammoth fat, because the air smells rich and heavy. Inside, children laugh quietly, as they chase a flicker of light reflected off a bone pendant. The elder lowers himself to sit, the firelight painting his face in shades of gold and shadow. You tell them about the old shelter, and for a moment everyone listens. The silence that follows isn't fear or sadness. It's awe. You found proof that the world was survivable before you. that it might remain survivable after. It's not immortality, but it's close. That night, as you lie down to sleep, the wind returns. It rattles the vent and hums against the bones above you, but the sound no longer feels hostile. It feels like a lullaby written by the planet itself, a reminder that the earth is ancient and cold, but still capable of letting you dream. You pull the hides up to your chin and close your eyes. The ground beneath you vibrates faintly with the storm's rhythm. You count each tremor like a heartbeat. It's strange how, after enough nights in this world, even the cold begins to sound like company. You fall asleep smiling because you've learned the most important lesson of the Ice Age. No one truly sleeps alone. You dream of warmth first, of sunlight filtering through leaves, of a breeze that smells like grass and salt. But then the dream curdles, the colors drain away, and you wake to the familiar ache of reality. Your eyelids are heavy, crusted with frost, and the air is so cold it hums in your ears. The fire's gone quiet again, a sullen glow hiding under grey ash. You reach toward it, fingers trembling, and feel that faint ghost of heat brush your palm. It's barely enough to exist. You stir the embers with a bone stick, coaxing them back to life. Each breath you blow feels like surrendering a piece of yourself to the flame. It rewards you slowly, first a spark, then a lick of light, then a pulse of orange that crawls outward across the pit, like something waking from sleep. You add fuel with deliberate care, a pinch of dried moss, a shred of dung, a strip of grass twisted into a rope. Every piece burns differently, with its own smell and temper. The tribe calls this listening to the fire. You learn its moods the way you'd learn a friend's. The others rise as the fire grows. Steam curls from their furs, their faces half-shadowed in the dim orange light. You can hear the soft chorus of joints cracking, the sigh of bodies remembering themselves. Outside, the wind has dropped again, a rare mercy. When it's quiet like this, the cold becomes trickier. It creeps in instead of striking. You can almost feel it testing the shelter's seams, looking for your breath. The elder gestures toward the fire and mutters something like a prayer. His voice is a gravelly whisper, shaped by decades of surviving this frozen world. You catch fragments, old words from before memory, something about the earth's warmth and the spirits that live below. Every people invents a reason for fire, but the truth is simpler. Flame means time. As long as it burns, you get to exist a little longer. Today's task is rebuilding. Yesterday's calm brought a storm's promise, and the shelter must be prepared. You and 3 others crawl outside, your bodies instantly stiffening in the open air. The world gleams blue-white beneath a low ceiling of clouds. The horizon is indistinct, blurred by falling snow, so fine it looks like smoke. Every sound seems magnified. The crunch of your boots, the scrape of bone on ice, the slow exhale of wind through the tusk-framed vents. You work in silence. The hides that form the outer wall are frozen hard, stiff as bark. You thaw the edges near the entrance with a handful of embers, re-stretch them and bury the base under fresh snow to seal it. The snow acts like clay, freezing solid within minutes. The smell of smoke mixes with the sharp mineral scent of ice and soil. It's not pleasant, but it's home. By midday, though the sun never truly rises, the work is done. The shelter stands like a strange creature half buried in the earth, breathing through its vents. From a distance, you'd never know it was human-made. That's how it should be. The earth protects what it recognizes. Inside, the tribe begins a rare indulgence. Warming stones, smooth rocks, heated near the fire, wrapped in hide, placed near sleeping spots. Its primitive radiance, passed from hand to hand, heart to heart. You hold one, feel its pulse fade gradually against your skin, and it's almost enough to make you believe you're winning against the cold. Almost. In the corner, a woman tends to the hides used for bedding. She brushes away frost and replaces damp layers with fresh grass. Another grinds fat into a paste, spreading it on tools to prevent cracking. Every task is ritual. Efficiency is religion here. Waste is sin. When the chores are done, you sit near the vent, letting a small column of air slide across your face. It smells faintly of smoke and snow. You close your eyes and imagine the wind outside, vast, invisible, uncaring. Somewhere beyond the horizon there are other fires like yours, tiny points of orange buried under endless white. You wonder if those people, whoever they are also awake now, feeding the same small miracle, praying to the same silence. The elder begins to hum again, low and rhythmic. It's not a song meant for ears. It's meant for time itself, a way to remind the world you're still here. The children pick up the rhythm, their voices soft and uneven. The melody swells until it fills the space, mingling with the fire's crackle. For a moment, the shelter doesn't feel like a grave dug into frozen soil. It feels like a heartbeat. Later, when the noise dies down and everyone settles to rest, you lie there watching the flame shrink. Shadows stretch and tremble along the walls, turning mammoth bones into living things. You think about how fragile this life is, how every night could be the last one where you wake again, and yet in that thought there's a strange comfort. Mortality makes the warmth sweeter, the silence richer. Outside, the first flakes of the coming storm begin to fall. You hear them tapping against the hide roof like soft fingertips. The air grows heavier, colder, but the fire holds steady, defiant and small. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, the smell of smoke and earth filling your lungs. You sleep, not because it's safe, but because you've learned how to trust the fire's small, stubborn promise. It will burn just long enough to see another dawn that looks exactly like night. When you open your eyes again, the world has vanished beneath a white wall. Snow hisses down through the vent, thin and relentless, a curtain of frozen breath. The air inside the shelter feels heavy, muffled, as though sound itself has frozen. You sit up slowly, brushing a dusting of frost from your hair, and for a heartbeat you forget where you are. Then the cold reminds you, sharp and immediate, like a hand closing around your lungs. The fire is low, shivering more than burning. You feed it without thinking. Muscle memory born of 1,000 mornings just like this. Dung first, then a curl of dry grass, then a breath you can barely spare. It catches reluctantly, smoke licking upward through the vent before curling back into the room. The draft is wrong. The storm outside has stolen your airflow. You can feel it pressing down from above, sealing the shelter in. The elder senses it too. He's awake before you can warn him, already moving toward the vent, his body a silhouette in the faint orange light. You both know this ritual well. Clear the air, feed the fire, keep death waiting at the door. He grips the tusk frame and pushes upward with the kind of patience only age can manage. Ice cracks like glass. A rush of bitter wind bursts inside, scattering embers and ash into the air. You cough, eyes watering, but the smoke clears. The fire breathes again, its color deepening to a clean golden pulse. You seal the vent halfway, just enough to keep the balance. Too much air, and the fire will devour itself. Too little, and it will suffocate you instead. This is what passes for engineering in your world. Instinct sharpened by repetition, trial measured in lives. You've buried enough mistakes to know what works. The others begin to stir. Children groan softly under their furs, faces puffy with sleep. The younger hunters stretch their arms, rubbing warmth back into their fingers. You can hear stomachs growling in the dark. Hunger is as constant as the cold. Someone unwraps a slab of frozen meat, striking it against a rock to loosen the ice. It thaws near the fire, sizzling faintly, filling the shelter with a smell so rich it almost feels sinful. Today, no one leaves. The storm outside has a sound like language, whispers rising and falling in long, slow breaths. The elder calls it the talking sky. It's not poetic, it's a warning. Winds like that can strip skin from bone in minutes. The tribe will wait, buried like seeds until the world remembers to be kind again. You spend the day repairing everything that can be repaired. There is always something: cracked bone, fraying sinew, damp hides. The smallest detail can become disaster if left unattended. The woman who tends the hides checks the seams for leaks, pressing her fingers to the edges where frost likes to creep in. She hums while she works, a song so quiet it seems meant more for the walls than for you. Maybe she believes sound itself keeps the cold away. You're not sure she's wrong. By midday, the storm grows louder. Snow slams against the roof in thick waves. The light through the vent is gone now. Only the glow of the fire remains, trembling across the walls like distant lightning. The air tastes of soot and iron. You can feel the shelter tightening around you, every creak of bone, and hide a reminder of how thin the barrier is between warmth and the frozen void outside. You huddle close with the others. There's no such thing as personal space here. Bodies become walls, warmth becomes currency. You can hear the heartbeat of the person beside you through the hides. That sound is comfort. It means there's still time. To distract the children from the howling wind, one of the older women begins to tell a story. Her voice is low, rasping, carrying the rhythm of breath more than words. She speaks of a time before the ice, when the rivers ran free and the sun stayed longer in the sky. The children listen with wide eyes, though you suspect they think it's a myth. You're not entirely sure yourself. Memory, when passed through enough generations, begins to sound like prophecy in reverse. When her story fades, silence returns. Not the sharp silence of fear, but the heavy, shared kind, like everyone is thinking the same thought, but no one dares to say it aloud. You look around at the faces glowing in firelight, the lines on their skin, the cracks in their lips, the hollows beneath their eyes, all carved by the same sculptor. The Ice Age doesn't care who you are. It makes statues of everyone eventually. The elder catches your gaze and nods toward the vent. Snow is piling faster now, a white plug forming again. You rise and climb the short slope to clear it. The wind hits your face with the force of a hammer. It's a living thing out there, angry, endless, and ancient. You push the snow away with your hands until the air flows again, then crawl back down, cheeks burning. The tribe doesn't thank you. They never do. You don't need it. Survival here is gratitude enough. Hours pass. The storm begins to fade. Though you can't tell when exactly, the roar becomes a whisper. Then the whisper becomes nothing. You step outside cautiously, squinting against the brightness. The world is reborn in white. The snow has buried the shelter halfway, smoothing every shape until it looks like an untouched hill. The air is dazzling, sharp enough to hurt your eyes. You turn back and see the smoke rise from the vent again, a small, stubborn thread against the infinite sky. For a second you think of all the others across this frozen planet. Each fire a heartbeat in the body of humankind. It's not much, but it's enough to keep the species breathing. When you crawl back inside, the heat feels almost tropical by comparison. Someone laughs softly, a sound you haven't heard in days. The fire crackles approvingly, alive and arrogant. You lie down beside it and close your eyes. The storm is over, for now, but the lesson remains. The same lesson written in every bone, every frostbitten hand, every night survived. No one wins against the cold. You just learn how to make it work for you. When the next morning arrives, it doesn't bother with light. It just lessens the dark. You wake to the sound of slow breathing and the faint pop of ice shifting above the shelter. For a moment you lie still, listening. The storm has gone, leaving a hush so pure you can hear the world think. It's strange, that silence. It doesn't feel like peace. It feels like a giant waiting to exhale. You roll onto your side, eyes adjusting to the faint shimmer of the embers. Every breath you draw is visible, drifting upward like soft ghosts. The air carries the smell of smoke, sweat, and mammoth fat, the perfume of survival. You sit up, rubbing the stiffness from your arms, and for the first time in days you feel a little hunger that isn't panic. That's a good sign. It means your body still remembers how to hope. The elder is already awake, crouched near the fire. He turns a flat stone over the coals, heating it until the surface hisses. He's making breakfast the old way. Thin slivers of meat pressed between two hot stones, the fat spitting and smoking. The smell so rich it nearly feels like sunlight. He hands you one without looking up. You eat slowly, careful to savor each bite. It tastes like salt earth and gratitude. Outside, the air has changed. You can feel it through the hides. The wind isn't clawing anymore. It's whispering. You crawl out through the tunnel entrance, your hands finding the packed snow that seals it. A few kicks, a few shoves, and daylight bleeds in. The sky has turned a deep, frozen blue, the kind that only happens after a storm, when the air is too clean for color. Everything glitters, even the bones in the snow look polished. You climb out and breathe deeply, lungs stinging from the cold purity of it. The step stretches in every direction, untouched. For the first time in weeks you can see the horizon, a thin line of silver where the world folds into itself. It looks endless and small all at once. Somewhere far beyond sight, herds move again, and rivers that froze to silence whisper under the ice. The world is still alive, just slow. The tribe emerges one by one, blinking against the light. The children laugh, throwing handfuls of powdery snow at each other, their laughter oddly fragile in the vast emptiness. For a brief moment it almost sounds like summer. You watch them and think how easily joy survives. Even here, it's the most rebellious thing humans ever learned to do. Work begins soon after. The hides must be cleared of snow before they harden. Tools inspected, traps checked. You walk with the hunters to the ridge, each step crunching with the sound of compacted frost. The air burns your nostrils, but the movement keeps you warm. Below the ridge, the frozen river winds like a strip of dull metal through the landscape. You can see the black mouths of animal burrows along its banks, fox, hare, maybe even wolf. Life is always hiding somewhere, waiting for hunger to find it. The hunters decide to check the traps first. They're simple things, loops of sinew anchored to stones hidden beneath snowdrifts. The first trap holds nothing but frost. The second a frozen hare, stiff but perfect. The elder smiles faintly, muttering thanks to whatever spirit governs luck. You sling it over your shoulder, feeling the weight of future meals. The day drifts by in slow increments of breath and motion. The light never changes much, just fades gently toward grey. As you walk back toward camp, a strange stillness fills you, the kind that comes after surviving something bigger than you were meant to. You think of the storm, of the days buried in darkness, and realize you no longer remember what fear felt like, only rhythm. Fire, food, repair, sleep, life stripped to its pulse. Back inside the shelter, the air is thick with warmth and laughter. Someone has carved shapes into a flat piece of mammoth bone. A circle, a sun, and a pattern that looks like a river. The children are tracing it with their fingers, inventing meanings. The woman who tends the hides is telling another story, this one about a girl who fell in love with a flame that refused to die. You lean against the wall, watching the shadows dance across faces that could have belonged to anyone, any time. It's strange, the comfort that comes from small fires and shared breath. You could almost believe you're part of something larger, something deliberate. Later, as night returns, the elder motions for everyone to move closer. He stokes the fire once more, then takes a bundle of dried grass soaked in fat and tosses it into the flames. The room glows brighter, flickering across the mammoth bones like liquid gold. He begins to speak softly, so the children strain to hear. He talks of the first humans to ever build a shelter, of how they learned to dig into the ground, to line the walls with hides, to coax warmth from the earth itself. He tells it like a myth, but you can hear the truth in it. We survived because we learned to sleep. When he finishes, No one moves for a while. The fire crackles. The wind hums outside. You lie back on the furs, feeling the warmth seep into your bones, and stare at the smoke twisting up toward the vent. For a moment it looks like a ribbon reaching for the stars. Then it disappears, as if swallowed by the night. You realize something simple and strange. This life, this rhythm of cold and fire, hunger and heat, has become beautiful to you. There's peace in knowing the rules of the world, even cruel ones. You've learned how to live inside them. The last thing you hear before sleep claims you is the sound of the elder humming again, low and steady, like a song meant for the earth itself. It blends with the crackle of fire until the two become one sound, the heartbeat of survival. And for the first time you don't dream of warmth. You dream of endurance, and it feels enough like love to keep you breathing. The next stretch of days passes in fragments of grey and gold. You stop counting them, because numbers mean little when the sun doesn't rise so much as drift. You wake, work, sleep, and wake again, an endless rhythm carved into the bones of everyone who lives beneath this sky. Life is smaller now, quieter. There are no seasons here, only degrees of endurance. And yet, even inside this frozen repetition, something fragile and miraculous begins to stir: imagination. It starts with the children. They've learned to play with shadows on the hide walls, shaping animals with their fingers in the firelight. Mammoths, wolves, birds and creatures that never existed. Their laughter rings like small bells in the dense air, strange and almost holy. You watch them and realize that even in a world this brutal, humanity is already dreaming. The same minds that carved flint tools are now carving stories. You join them one night, tracing shapes of your own into the soot-black ceiling. With a piece of charcoal from the hearth, you draw the curve of a river, one you barely remember from the time before everything froze. The lines are rough, crooked, but alive. A few others begin adding to it. A fish, a mammoth, the jagged symbol the elder says means sun. For a moment the shelter becomes something else entirely. Not a grave, not a bunker, but a gallery. The elder watches quietly from his corner. When he finally speaks, his voice is softer than the fire. "Keep doing that," he murmurs. "The world needs to remember it's more than hunger." You nod, though you suspect what he really means is that the tribe needs to remember what it's fighting for. Survival without memory is just waiting. The days slide by, each one stitched together by ritual. Morning, clear the vent, feed the fire, stretch the hides. Afternoon, check traps, repair tools, grind bones for needles. Evening, stories, warmth, quiet. The nights grow colder again, but the wind has lost its teeth for now. The silence outside feels thicker, like snow piled against time itself. Sometimes, when sleep won't come, you crawl out of the shelter and stand in the open air. The stars above are monstrous, countless and close, glittering like frost on an infinite ceiling. Their light feels sharper than any blade. You can see your breath rising toward them, curling into nothing. For a brief second, you wonder if those same stars watched your ancestors dig their first pit, light their first flame, whisper their first song. The thought is dizzying. You feel tiny yet endless. You laugh quietly, and the sound feels absurd in a place this empty. When you crawl back inside, the fire greets you like an old friend. Someone is awake. The hide tender, her eyes reflecting the glow. She's humming again, that wordless tune that always sounds like it's meant for someone far away. You talk to the fire too much. You tease quietly. She smiles without opening her eyes. "It listens," she says, "better than people." You don't argue. She's right. That night, the tribe dreams restlessly. You wake to murmurs, shifting bodies, the sense that something is happening just beyond the edges of sleep. The elder stirs first, sitting up sharply. "The wind's changed," he says. You can't hear it yet, but you trust him. He knows the language of the cold better than anyone. By morning, his warning proves true. The air feels wrong, brittle and metallic. You can smell frost before you see it. Outside, the horizon has disappeared behind a curtain of glittering particles, diamond dust. The elder calls it ice so fine it drifts through the air like glittering ash. Beautiful, until it cuts your lungs open from the inside. The tribe seals the entrance again, leaving only the vent for air. The fire burns higher today, and for once no one scolds it for greed. The elder begins another story, this one older than the Ice Age itself. He speaks of a time when the earth was young and warmth came not from flame but from faith. Fire, he says, is what happens when belief gets too hot to stay quiet. You don't know if he's joking, but you like the sound of it. Later, when the storm passes, you help carry snow from the roof to prevent collapse. Your fingers are raw, bleeding through the hide gloves, but the rhythm is hypnotic. Scoop, lift, throw. Each motion is proof that you're still alive, still moving through a world that keeps trying to erase you. Inside, the children are still drawing. The soot-black walls have become a forest of shapes. Animals, stars, rivers, people. You notice something new among them. Handprints, tiny ones, pressed into the ash with greasy palms. The prints climb upward, toward the vent, as if the children tried to reach the sky itself. You feel a strange ache looking at them, part pride, part sorrow. These hands will grow, hunt, build, and someday vanish, but the marks they left will stay until the next fire burns them away. That night, when you lie down to sleep, you realize how the sound of the world has changed. It's no longer just the roar of the wind or the crackle of the fire. There's something else now, a rhythm that lives between the two, a kind of pulse, steady and deep, like the heart of the planet itself. Maybe it's always been there. Maybe you just learned how to listen. You close your eyes, feeling that rhythm merge with your own heartbeat. The hides are warm against your skin. Someone shifts beside you, their arm brushing yours. The contact is small but infinite. It means you're still human, still awake inside the dream of survival. And as the night swallows everything, you drift into sleep thinking that perhaps warmth isn't what you build. It's what you become when you refuse to stop trying. You wake to a sound that isn't the wind, something deeper, slower. For a moment, your half-dreaming mind thinks it's thunder, but thunder doesn't live in this frozen world. Then you feel it, a vibration running through the earth beneath you. Subtle but real, the hides tremble. Dust sifts down from the ceiling. Someone gasps softly in the dark. The elder Sep's voice cuts through the quiet. Ice breaking, he murmurs. River waking up. You sit up, blinking. The air feels heavier today, the kind of stillness that happens before a great change. The fire is small but steady, painting trembling halos of gold across the bones overhead. The elder stares into it, his eyes bright with something between worry and wonder. Listen, he says. And you do. Beneath the usual crackle and breath of the shelter, there's a new sound, distant but growing, a groan, low and mournful, like the earth remembering how to move. Somewhere out there, a frozen river is stirring under its crust, water flexing its muscles against months of ice. The sound rolls across the steppe, like a slow drum beat. The children press close, wide-eyed. The older hunters exchange glances. Breakups mean change, sometimes good, sometimes deadly. Meltwater can flood, ice can crack underfoot, and prey can move where you can't follow. But it also means the world isn't static. It's still breathing. By midday, you and two others climb out of the shelter to scout. The air bites, but the wind is calm and the light has a strange quality, silver with hints of blue, as if the sun is remembering its job. The snow underfoot has changed texture, crusted over with thin ice that sings when you step on it. You walk slowly, testing each step, feeling the faint give of thaw beginning. When you crest the ridge above the river, the sound grows louder. The ice below is splitting in long, jagged lines that stretch for miles, like scars healing backward. Pockets of dark water shimmer in the cracks, steaming faintly in the cold air. You crouch, watching the way the light plays across it. Black, silver, blue, all shifting like breath. The others kneel beside you, silent. For the first time in months, you can smell moisture. Clean, sharp, alive. It's so overwhelming that your eyes sting. You realize you've forgotten what unfrozen water smells like. It's the scent of life trying to start over. You fill a small skin with meltwater and take it back to the shelter. Inside, the tribe gathers around as you pour it into a bowl made of hollowed bone. Steam curls upward. The elder dips his fingers into it, touches the droplets to his forehead, and whispers a word that sounds like return. Then he passes it around. Each person does the same. No one drinks, it's too precious for that. It's not for thirst, it's for remembrance. That night, the air inside the shelter feels different. Lighter. The smoke rises cleaner. The fire burns steadier. You can hear laughter again. Quiet, weary, but real. The elder begins a story about the first river, the one that supposedly carved the world from ice. It's a myth maybe, but you can see the truth inside it. Warmth has always been a rebellion. Later, when the others sleep, you lie awake, watching the play of light and shadow along the walls. The children's handprints glow faintly in the firelight. You think of them reaching for the vent, for the sky, for something beyond this cold. You reach your own hand up, pressing your palm over one of the smaller ones. The soot is cool against your skin. You leave your print beside it. Generations layered like sediment, proof that people keep trying. Outside, the wind picks up again, but softer now, almost tender. It rattles the vent, like fingertips brushing a drum. You can hear distant cracks echoing across the plain. The ice still shifting, still breaking. Change never happens quietly in this world. It has to be torn free. The elder murmurs in his sleep. Something about the hungry sun, and you smile. You can feel it already. Faint and far away, but certain. Soon the sky will brighten. The animals will return, and life will bloom in the smallest ways. A sprout, a thawed riverbank, a single fish flashing in black water. But for now, you stay still. The warmth inside the shelter hums gently, pulsing through the air like the rhythm of a heartbeat. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, the scent of smoke and thawing soil filling your lungs. The world outside is waking, and so are you. You dream of rivers running under ice, of hands painting the first maps on stone, of people finding not just warmth but purpose. You dream of all the tiny fires across the endless cold, and how together they might look like stars. And for the first time since the world froze over, you sleep without fear. You wake to brightness. Not the thin grey shimmer of a dying sky, but something deeper, almost golden, almost warm. It leaks through the hide seams in slender veins of light, illuminating the air itself. You blink against it, half afraid it's a dream. But the elder is already up, squinting toward the vent, his wrinkled face soft with awe. The sun, he says simply, like naming an old friend who'd been gone too long. You crawl outside and the sight almost hurts. The world has turned to glass. Every surface, every drift, bone and frozen reed glitters as if dusted with powdered fire. The snow has crusted into plates that reflect the light in shards, dazzling and impossible to look at for long. You squint, shielding your eyes. Even your breath catches the sunlight, shining briefly before fading. You can feel the difference immediately. The cold is still vicious, but it has lost its arrogance. It no longer owns everything. The air smells cleaner, almost sweet, as if the world is exhaling after a long, hard breath. In the distance, you hear dripping, the first sound of meltwater, and it's more beautiful than any song. The tribe emerges behind you one by one, blinking, hesitant. The children laugh first because they're too young to be afraid of miracles. They tilt their faces upward, mouths open, catching the faint warmth that dances between shadow and frost. The adults follow slowly, reverent, each one silent. The elder kneels, presses his palm to the snow, and smiles when it comes away damp. The ground's alive again, he whispers. It's strange how quickly memory returns. The scent of wet air stirs something ancient in you. Forests, rivers, flowers that no longer exist but somehow still live inside your blood. You close your eyes and see them, green leaves trembling, animals drinking from sunlit water, the world before the ice. You wonder if that world will ever return, or if this thaw is just another brief mercy. By midday, the shelter feels too small, too still. You and a few others venture farther, testing the landscape. The steppe is changing subtly. Cracks in the frozen crust reveal streams that glint like threads of mercury. A hare darts across the snow, its fur patchy with new grey. A raven circles overhead, its shadow sliding across the ground like a brushstroke of ink. Life is reassembling itself, shy but certain. You stop near a cluster of ancient mammoth bones half buried in ice. They jut out like the ribs of a shipwreck, remnants of another age. The elder joins you, his breath steady, his eyes following the bones upward. They carried us through the cold, he says quietly, and now they rest. The bones remember. You nod. In a world this fragile, memory itself feels sacred. Every bone, every hide, every soot mark on a wall, all of it proof that humans refuse to vanish. When you return to the shelter, you find the children sprawled on the ground, tracing new patterns into the soot. Their handprints now form spirals, suns, rivers. One of them has drawn something new, a line of figures holding hands under a glowing circle. You can't help but smile. The drawings look primitive, crude, yet you feel a strange pride rise in your chest. This is how history begins, not with kings or weapons, but with people trying to remember warmth. That night, the fire burns lower than usual. No one's afraid anymore. You sit back, watching the glow slide across the walls, soft and rhythmic. The elder speaks again, his voice almost gentle now. We've lived through the worst, he says. The cold will come again, of course. It always does, but it never stays. It's patient, not eternal. The high tender hums a reply, low and melodic, and soon others join her. The sound fills the shelter, weaving through the air like smoke. The song has no words, only the steady rise and fall of breath. It feels ancient, like something the bones themselves might sing. You close your eyes and let it wash through you. The warmth in the room thickens until you can feel your heartbeat slowing, steadying. You lean back against the hides and watch the flames dance. Each flicker seems to tell a story of the first fire lit in fear, the first shelter built in defiance, the first family that dared to sleep while the world froze around them. You realize with a quiet sort of awe that you are part of that same unbroken chain. You lie down and listen to the breathing around you, steady, human, alive. The fire cracks softly, a heartbeat of flame. Outside, the wind has changed its voice again. It's no longer a predator, it's a lullaby. You close your eyes, and for the first time, sleep feels natural. You are not hiding from the cold anymore. You are living beside it. The world will freeze again, and melt again, and so will you. That's the rhythm of things. And as the last thought drifts across your mind, the line between fear and peace disappears completely. You sleep like your ancestors did, not as a refuge but as an act of trust. The next morning comes not with sound but with light, the kind that seeps into your bones before you even open your eyes. You feel it first as a gentle pressure behind your eyelids, then as a warmth along your cheek. When you finally look, the world beyond the vent glows pale gold. Snowflakes drift lazily in the air, slow and harmless, like feathers surrendering to gravity. For the first time since you can remember, the light doesn't feel like a stranger. You crawl outside, still wrapped in furs, blinking against the brightness. The air bites, yes, but it's softer now, as if the season has exhaled. The wind no longer feels like an enemy trying to carve you hollow. Instead, it brushes past, curious and distant, carrying the faint scent of meltwater and soil. You can almost taste minerals on your tongue, the earth's blood returning to motion. The steppe stretches endlessly, but something's changed. The horizon breathes. Thin ribbons of fog curl above distant riverbeds, marking where ice has begun to retreat. You can see the shimmer of new puddles, shallow mirrors catching sunlight for the first time in months. The color of the world is shifting, ever so slightly, not the blue of deep winter, but the bruised violet of something healing. Behind you, the others emerge, their furs glinting with frost. The elder moves slowly, leaning on a carved bone staff, his breath visible but steady. The children squint at the sunlight, giggling at their shadows. They chase them across the snow, marveling at the miracle of darkness that moves when they do. You watch, smiling faintly. The world isn't fixed, but it's waking up. The elder raises his hands, murmuring a few old words, half prayer, half gratitude. He doesn't address a god. He speaks to the air itself, the ice, the sun. Everything that tried to kill you is part of what kept you alive. That's the strange bargain of this place. The cold teaches warmth better than any fire ever could. The day passes in quiet busyness. You help dig out the food storage pit, now crusted with frost and packed snow. Inside, the meat is still good, hard as stone, preserved perfectly by the cold. The hides smell of smoke and salt. You share what's left, careful, deliberate, a ritual disguised as a meal. No one overeats. Abundance feels unholy after so much hunger. Later, you walk beyond the shelter, following the curve of the frozen ridge. The snow is thinner here, the ground uneven. You find a spot where wind has carved away the top layer, revealing frozen grass beneath, yellowed, brittle but real. You kneel and brush it with your fingers, feeling it crumble to dust. For a heartbeat, you can almost imagine it growing again. You look up, and far to the north, a dark shape moves, slow, massive, deliberate. A mammoth, maybe two, emerging from the haze. Their silhouettes ripple like smoke against the horizon. You watch them in silence, your chest tightening with something that feels suspiciously like hope. They survived too. Somehow, against the same odds, they endured. When you return to camp, the sun is dipping low, staining the snow in soft shades of amber and rose. The elder sits by the fire, tracing something in the ash, a circle within a circle. Seasons, he says without looking up. They always come back, even here. You nod, settling beside him. Night falls slowly. The fire burns low, a deep orange heart in a sea of blue. Everyone sits close. The kind of closeness that isn't about comfort anymore, but belonging. You watch the flames, the way they bend and twist, painting the hides with liquid light. You think of every hand that fed this fire, every breath that kept it alive. The miracle isn't that humans invented flame, it's that they never stopped believing in it. The elder begins to hum again, but this time the sound feels different. Not a ward against fear, but a song of memory. The children join in, their voices soft and uneven, blending into something ancient and familiar. You close your eyes and let it carry you. The song feels like motion, like thawing, like the long inhale before spring. You drift towards sleep. As the fire dwindles, the light fades slowly, flickering across the bones of the shelter one last time. The walls seem to breathe with you, expanding, contracting, alive. You think of the long nights behind you, the storms, the hunger, the silence, and yet here you are. The cold never left, but you learned to live inside it. You became its equal. Outside, the sky glows with 1,000 frozen stars, each one a reflection of the fires burning across the steppe. Other tribes, other families, other sleepers learning the same old truth. Warmth is not a gift, it's a craft. You build it every night, with breath, with patience, with each other. And as your mind begins to sink into that soft darkness between thought and dream, you realize something so simple, it almost feels divine. Humans didn't just survive the Ice Age, they dreamed through it. The fire dwindles to embers, the world to whispers. You feel the last warmth fade from the hides, replaced by the steady pulse of your own heartbeat. The air inside the shelter hums softly, smoke, earth, and breath mingling into one rhythm. Outside, the snow has gone still. Even the wind has paused to listen. You lie back, eyes half open, watching the last threads of smoke curl upward toward the vent. Each one carries a memory, a laugh, a prayer, a sigh, a story half told. The flame sighs once more, and then it's gone, leaving behind only the glow of cooling ash. The silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of everything that's been endured, everything that's been shared. You can almost hear the heartbeat of the earth again, slow and enormous, echoing through the frozen ground. You match it without trying. In that stillness, you understand what your ancestors must have known. Warmth isn't something you keep, it's something you pass on. A look, a hand, a story whispered through darkness. It's all the same flame, the kind that doesn't die, only changes shape. Your breathing slows. The stars outside are faint now, blurred through the thin frost above. Somewhere beyond them, the world keeps turning, patient as sleep. You close your eyes and let go, not into darkness, but into quiet, the kind that feels earned, the kind that hums like a lullaby made of ice and fire. And just before the last thought fades, you hear it. A final flicker, soft as breath, like a candle going out.